Okay, good morning. It's November 7th, 2025. And I woke up feeling miserable today. It's awesome. And my daughter's in town too, which is even better. So I'm going to be sick while she's here. Such is life. But I'm happy to be alive and able to trade today. And we're going to talk about what happened yesterday, which was really interesting. So yesterday in ES, this was kind of like the view that we were looking at in our pre-market prep, and it's a range contraction day. So range contraction, we've talked about this several times. We have more range contractions this last week than I've seen in like a month or 2 months or more, maybe. Quite a few of these. And range contraction is when the ADR, IDR range is within the prior RDR, IDR range. And you get this contracting period. And then you had this really tiny overnight range, the opening range. I'm talking about the opening range. And then we get this move up. And so when we looked at our data, what was really interesting about our data, let me bring up the video here so you can see. This is just directly from what we were showing. We were dominant on a range expansion. So this particular set of conditions very often leads to a range contraction, but also an upside X plus. So it's kind of prepared for both options, range expansion, upside X plus, right? Both of those as possibilities. Give me a second here. Let me just see. I have an error message here. Okay. And so, what that's interesting because, when you're looking at price like this, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this thing's just gonna keep on going, right? Can just keep on going up, right? Which we're thinking maybe we could come back down to here. Maybe we go down, reject from there, and then we start going down. So a number of different scenarios that are possible. And what we actually ended up getting was this really strong move after I finished the broadcast. We actually got this this really strong move that just kind of tanked price all the way down. At this point, I kind of figured if we don't stop around here to form the upside X plus, we're probably headed down. So, and that's kind of exactly what happened. So that's what we ended up getting. I think I mentioned too, like at this point for sure, it was very positive that we were going to hit upside a range expansion. I think I mentioned when it hits this, then let me just zoom in here a little bit more. This when we kind of close below here, which was right here at the 925 bar. I'm not looking long at this point, guys. There's no way. Like we've talked about this. The data is very strongly range expansion even without this happening. And so with this happening, we just increase the probability. If we rejected from the midline, I would feel a little bit more comfortable that we'd maybe go back up. But from here, very much looking short at this point through this area. So our data held true, which was awesome. Let me just set this up again. So we had downside X, long true. What was yesterday? So we had downside X, long true, range contraction Thursday. I think I took this off. Did I take this off? Downside X. What did we have? Downside X, long true, range contraction. Yeah, Thursday. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't want to recreate it all. So in any case, we're kind of like looking at a range contraction day, which we got. So as soon as we come down here, if you're not thinking range contraction at this point, you're definitely thinking range contraction at this point, no matter what our what our prior data said on the upside X plus. And we got this big move down. So that was yesterday. good accuracy yesterday. And this was ES. So if we take this off, we take a look here and what we end up with. So nice move yesterday. We now are in a contraction period. Okay, so I think we talked about this week too. This is such an unusual time period, guys. Like these kinds of patterns where we have 4 out of the last 5 days, I think I mentioned in the stream, were range contraction between ADR, the RDR and ADR, and then having a contraction between the ADR, the Asian session, and the European session is super weird. And it rarely happens. So let's take a look at how rare this is. So we've got, it's Friday. So let's take a look here. Let's go in our data. We're going to reset. It's Friday. We have contraction. So 22 times in the past 17 years, 22 times we've had this. And I guarantee a lot of those times were, possibly, news, holidays and things like that. So we're short, true. Now we only have 5 records, right? This is what happens when we don't have very much data, right? Everything's just kind of very equal. So I'm going to take Fridays off. It gives us, 23 records, and we're pretty much split between range expansion and downside X plus. So we're pretty much split right here. And if we do we're below, that's going to increase the down. So far I'm just split. So this is what it looks like. It looks like either a day like yesterday, right, where we kind of have this range expansion coming from pretty far below, or we're going to have a downside X plus. I'm actually thinking we're going to have a downside X plus. That's just my gut feel. So I don't trade off my gut, and I don't recommend you trade off your gut, but I'm just thinking after this kind of move where we broke out of kind of this, we've just kind of been breaking out of this range contraction area. So all this was our range contraction area, right here. We broke out, we retested, and then we kind of came down again. It just feels very much like, hey, we're kind of moving down. So could be wrong. The bulls have been coming back in pretty strong, for the past couple of months. So who knows? We could actually, this could actually just end up being something like this again, and then we go up. So what's going to be the big decider on this one right here? How much do we move up toward this IDR low level right there? So the closer we get to that, the more, the higher probability that we're going to kind of have a range expansion. If we continue to kind of stay down in these areas, I'm thinking probably more along the lines of a downside X plus. So that's ES. NQ. Let me see here. I don't have let me get a clean chart for NQ. Where's my 5 minute? Here's my 5 minute chart. Take some things off here, guys. Take these off. This. Okay, let's just get it a little bit clean. All right. So we don't have a range contraction in Q. Very close though, right? We're just really just not that far off from a range contraction. So this is what's called an upside pattern. And we went short, true, and it's a Friday. So let's just take a look here. Let's see what we get for NQ. So it's Friday. We said upside, short, true, and we're far below. So this one's leaning more toward downside X plus. I'm gonna take Friday off so we get more records. Yeah, okay. So this could be, ES and NQ kind of work together very often. They're very often moving in the same direction. So this data might actually, kind of tell us more about what will happen in ES than ES data could tell us, right? Like if we're really kind of thinking downside X plus in Q, very likely we'll get downside X plus in ES as well. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. All right. Let's see. Is there anything else to cover? I don't think there's any questions. So I think that's pretty much it. Sorry, guys. I'm not feeling awesome today. My mind isn't all here. So hopefully I covered everything. If not, hopefully this is still enough to get you going. So, all right, guys. Y'all have an awesome day. Have an amazing weekend. Recharge. Get set up. Get ready for next week. And we're off and running. All right. Later.